good evening, all of you. We are going to start our next session, and the lectures for the next session will be given by our one of the organizing committee member, Professor Sushmita Das. First, let me give a little introduction of about her. So, Professor Sushmita Das received her BSc Engineering from College of Engineering and Technology, Bhubaneswar, Odisha, and MSc Engineering and in Electronics System and Communication from NIT Rourkela. She is currently a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering, serving as a Dean Faculty Welfare at NIT Rourkela. She previously served as a head of the Department of Electrical Engineering at NIT Rourkela. She has 30 years of experience at NIT Rourkela. Her research area includes futuristic networks, digital signal processing, digital communication, artificial and neural networks, fuzzy logics, channel equalization, and system identification. It is my honor to welcome her to deliver her talk on reliable communication in ultra wideband body area network. Ma'am, I am handovering you to for your talk.
Thank you, Suman. Very good evening, all participants. I know that you are all tired and must be feeling tired after a long exposure to all futuristic wireless communication and 5G technologies. And last 5 days might have been very hectic, those who are attending regularly. So I choose a topic on rather application side, how the upcoming communication technology will help the society. So my topic, actually I have chosen a topic like that. And to end the course, after all, our health monitoring is a crucial issue, considering you can see now the present COVID scenario. So real-time health monitoring is very essential. So in that scenario, this topic today seems to be too relevant for everybody. So I would like to share the slides now. So I'm switching off my mobile video. I'll share the slides and start the class. Yeah, is the slide visible to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, thank you. So this topic for my presentation is reliable communication in ultra-wideband based body area networks. So my presentation flow will be like this. Basically, I'll introduce you to the topic. Then I'll be discussing on wireless body area network, and then the ultra wideband communication. Then how reliable communication is possible using ultra wideband W band. Then I'll discuss some research study taken by one of my PhD scholars, Dr. Deepak Kumar Raut, who is a associate professor now in KIT, Bhubaneswar. So we have done certain measurement campaigns in our lab, in our communication lab in the Department of Electrical Engineering. So I'll expose you those experimentation, what was the measurement campaign carried out. Then we'll discuss how we have developed the NBI mitigation using pulse shaping techniques. Then also we'll discuss on empirical path loss models which we have developed. And finally, I'll conclude the discussion. So, as you know that the world population is increasing at a rapid rate. So you may be knowing that according to data from United Nations, it is growing at a rate of, let's say, almost 1.13% per year. This may seem to be a small fraction to you, but it means that 80 million people are being added to the world population every year almost. Further, another important point is that aged population above 65 years of age, if you say, has become a significant proportion of world population. So in the next few decades, the biggest challenge in the world for many countries will be to provide proper health care to its entire population. So with this increasing demand for health care, worldwide researchers are trying to find advanced technical solutions for improving the healthcare infrastructure. And very recent developments in healthcare industries, wellness communication technology, and the emergence of, let's say, ultra scale integration of circuits has made it possible to ultra large scale integrations of circuits. It has made it possible to provide a broad range of patient healthcare service. While these services are till now available mainly in hospitals and health centers, with the advent of or application of ICT to support medical and healthcare service, it will greatly improve the management efficiency in a hospital tremendously. Also, this one, wellness body area network, is an emerging technology to maintain an optical healthcare, as it will provide real-time patient monitoring capabilities to healthcare professionals. Also, it will provide better rehabilitation and improves patients' quality of life compared to a traditional web-based system. So these services can be availed by patient, whether he is in a home or is in office or a workspace or any other location. So altogether, this kind of healthcare services should be available anywhere, anytime. So how it is possible, we'll see to that. So wellness sensors basically integrated into human body, as the previous discussion was going on in the class. So it will, these wellness sensors, when integrated into human body, will acquire and monitor human body signals anywhere, anytime. I mean to say, ubiquitous monitoring of patients will be almost possible. So in this is the now coming to the wellness body area network. As you can see here, it was this wellness body area network. It was basically initially developed as a personal area network by Zimmerman and his group, originally coined from the term BAN, based on his work he did at MIT US. So body area network is a new revolution in healthcare sector. As you can see in the diagram, it's a network of devices in and around the human body to detect diseases, to monitor patients, and also we can locate them in case of emergency. So this body area network consists of several sensor nodes that collect and transmit medical information obtained from the human body to an off-body device. You can see that off-body device, which then retransmits it to a medical monitoring center. In case of any urgency, the patient also can be located and health services in an ambulance may be rushed. So this type of benefit of this type of monitoring and also diagnosis of will help diagnosis of diseases from their early stages, let's say cardiovascular diseases, and efficient utilization of medical personnel will be possible, because you know that the medical availability of medical personnel is very much scarce everywhere. So a body area network will monitor the physiological signals from the sensors and which are embedded or implanted into the human body. These sensors basically will have the capability to transmit the information wirelessly, which are then collected by an off-body device. So the information collected contains not only the medical signals, but also the information about the day-to-day activity of patients in case we need to monitor the patients. So which will help the medics in determining the patient's health condition. If you consider the patient mobility either in their house or in hospital environment or in an ambulatory care, W-band network is highly desirous in that case. So this W-band provides basically short range 2 meter, can be optionally extended to 5 meters, ultra low powered and high reliable wireless communication for use in close proximity to or inside body. And it supports a wide range of throughput rates, that is from 1 kilobits per second to 10 megabits per second, to accommodate higher throughput applications, maybe video, while still delivering the high reliability and meeting the low latency requirement of the medical applications. So actually there are different standards have been developed, but the IEEE 802.15 task group 6 in 2012 has developed the standard for BAN. So this standard for multiple physical layer modes of operation, that is for narrowband, ultra-wideband and human body communication, it has been developed by this standard body. Further, depending upon the mode, a number of carrier frequency bands are supported. So specific application regulated to only separate within allowable frequency bands can be supported. Similarly, IEEE 802.15.6 MAC also offers a great deal of flexibility by offering and combining different access modes. So this IEEE 802.15.6 task group 6 was set up to bring together the needs of the information and communication sector and health sector demands. And it has come to design those standards that would that is best suitable for both the sectors. Now, coming to the application of BAN system for healthcare, you can see the slide itself. So it is possible to provide the medical facilities to a large population with limited medical personnel. That is the biggest advantage we'll be getting. In addition to that, accurate and fast identification of patient's condition and disease. Also, it is easier and efficient maintenance of medical history of records of patients for future prediction. Now, using the AI techniques, future prediction of diseases also can be done. So we can save efficiently the medical history of patient records. Also, it is easier and computer assisted diagnostic of patients, that is related to that. In addition to that, one important application is that the efficient tracking and localization of patients in emergency. Another important last point is very important, that is for aged population, that is it can be utilized for fault detection for old and chronically ill patients. So the body area network can be formally defined as a network of sensors in and around the human body to sense the vital medical signals, also enable the early detection and treatment of diseases. So there are a variety of wireless sensor networks with the state-of-art technologies for wireless communication and remote health monitoring also. As we see that teeny sensors are implanted on or inside the human body, on body surface or inside the human body to collect vital health data in the form of, let's say, variety of data you can collect like ECG, EEG, glucose level, body temperature, body pressure. So all these vital data can be monitored. They are all critical parameters of human body, so they can be monitored. Something happened, the slide, let me restart again. Just yeah. So sensors are in general a type of transducer, as you know, that convert physical signs and events into electrical energy. So IEEE TG6 defines three types of nodes for band. One is the implant node, three type of nodes. One is the implant node. This one, the implant nodes, they are the sensors that are implanted inside the human body. Sensor nodes are placed in locations where they can sense the required signal very efficiently, and it should be power efficient so as to work for its useful lifetime. So the reason can be attributed to the fact that it is almost impossible to change the battery in implanted sensors particularly. So the sensors should be such that it is not affected by body tissues, and neither should it affect any other body tissue. External nodes, as the are not in direct contact with the skin, so if the sensors are mounted on external nodes, so they are placed at few centimeters to around 5 meters away from the human body. These are the external nodes. So here the sensor, it is the external node. We can say your smartphone receiving health data. So this is your, either you can use a smartphone or a PDA with extra functionality to interact with sensors. So it can process the medical data. So this external node may perform some onboard processing on the received data so as to make it suitable for further transmission. Now, the main characteristic of a W-band sensor nodes are like this, because it should have several features which make them basically suitable for use in large number of emerging applications. So first one, as you can see here, energy efficient. So the nodes are designed, it should be designed in a way that they can utilize very low energy. So power management schemes are used basically to handle the power resources optimally so that nodes remain alive for longer time and the network's lifetime increases. That should be energy efficient. Number two is that the heterogeneous. That means sensor used in W-band, they are heterogeneous in nature. What does that mean? Heterogeneous means heterogeneous in nature, each having its own function. Some nodes may sense the temperature, other nodes may sense blood pressure, and so on. So each of the sensor nodes has different storage capacity, computation capability, and energy consumption basically. Third point is that here the cost effectiveness. So since the nodes are used power optimally and are deployed over a small area, so they live longer and lesser number of nodes are required in network formation and replacement. So when they get damaged, so this all leads to a lower cost of creating a network. And next point is that user friendly. It should be simple, lightweight, small size nodes are used such that they can easily carried or they can be wearable. So no, because they're wearable on the body. So this one, the energy efficient. The last point is that they should be user. The last but one point is that it should be user friendly. So previous approaches were not efficient in terms of power mobility, but currently the wireless sensors, the design of sensors has led to user-friendly techniques of tracking the motion, body temperature, and other human body signals. So you can get the readings on a PDA laptop anywhere we want, and we can store also this data for later use. Last point is that they should support user mobility. Traditionally, the person who used to be monitored had to stay at hospital till they were monitored because of the wears. The sensor, from the sensor, the wears were attached to the monitoring devices. So, or any medical center. So the patient could not move. Is not possible for the patient to have movement. But with this new technology, with the W-band technology, this will make the patients roam freely even when they are at home, or they may go to their workplace, or doctors do not know to have the locations. They can easily access their data on their PC and diagnose them. So these are the characteristics of W-band sensor nodes. So as I was just saying that the collected data is transmitted to a nearby medical monitoring center, and the BAN service provider may deploy standalone infrastructure for this purpose, or existing mobile communication infrastructure may be used for this purpose. So the health signals collected are transmitted to a medical monitoring center via the existing cellular network or standalone wireless BAN infrastructure, where careful monitoring by the any automated algorithms implemented on MMC servers and medical personnel can be done for any signs of abnormality, any abnormality detection. So this type of monitoring has a lot of advantage, as continuous monitoring is a continuous and efficient monitoring of patients is possible, and also early detection of diseases can be done. So this is a picture where how it will be monitored by medical personnel at a medical center. So in the medical monitoring center server automatically detects any deviations from normal medical rhythms and inform medical professional. So these medics are assigned for the particular patient. They are forwarded the data. So in case of emergency, the patient's location is relayed to the ambulance personnel for accurate localization. So databases in the monitoring center archive the patient data for a long time, as I was saying to you, for prediction of any future diseases. Now the artificial intelligence is used. So that can be also carried out. So this is basically the difference between the W-band based medical sensor network which I introduced to you, and the now existing we have the medical sensor networks, existing sensor networks. So these are the wires. You can see these are the wire connectivity is through the wires. And suppose you are taking the you can say you are taking the ECG monitoring. So you are using 12 nodes for that. So that is the monitoring, you can say. So this is the current technology, existing medical sensor networks, and the technologies are used. Maybe it also Bluetooth or 802.115.4 Zigbee or WLAN can be used as to send the data to that network. So in case of this, this is through W-band, the sensor nodes, the wireless sensor nodes, they collect the data. So through the W-band network, they are transferred for long range. You can transmit them through the network, and you can do a remote monitoring also. So that is the best advantage of the real-time health monitoring using the W-band based medical sensor network compared to the existing medical sensor network. So other applications, very interesting applications of W-band are there also. One is the gaming application. You all know that. Mostly you are watching that in some motion sensing gaming. So, and environmental application like this media streaming, stream high density videos and other media, eliminating the need of wires. Most important part is disability assistance. Here is a picture of disability assistance. So band may be used to assist people with visual disability by informing them about obstacles. So if there is a staircase or any other obstacle, wall is there. So the cameras and UWB radars may be integrated to patient spectacles or walking sticks to detect objects such as hurdles or walls or staircase or any obstructions in front. So these are some of the interesting applications of W-band you can have. So like any other wireless network, one is similarly governed by a set of protocols and government bodies which govern the power limits and allocate the spectrum. So the transmit power limitations, it is governed by different, it is different. Suppose ETSI, the European Telecommunication Standard Institute, it limits the maximum power output to 25 microwatt ERP, whereas FCC and ITUR limit the power output to a maximum of 25 microwatt EIRP. That's the transmit power limitations. In addition to that, the band uses a particular set of frequency bands for communications. These frequency bands may be categorized also as narrow band and wide band. The 2.4 gigahertz band and the given in the table, the other bands, it is given 402 to, let's say, start with 402 to 405 megahertz band. It has been allocated for implant to implant, implant to body surface, and implant to external communication scenario, whereas 13.5, 50, 400, 600, 900 megahertz and 2.4, then 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz, which is the UWB band, it have been allocated for body surface to body surface communication scenario. Again 900 megahertz, 2.4 gigahertz and 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz, that is the wide band, 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz UWB, that is allocated for body surface to external communication scenario. So this is the diagram shows a host of frequency bands for use of band. This includes, apart from, you can see, apart from ultra wide band, that is from 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz, the medical implant service MICs, the wireless medical telemetry service WMTS, and the industrial, scientific and medical bands. So while most of the bands are in use in some form of medical communication, the ultra-wideband is one of the newer bands allocated for the purpose. The choice of frequency band will be based on various parameters like the desired data rate, attenuation level, transmit power limitations due to available onboard power, and apparently the availability of frequency band worldwide. So, since the attenuation of ultra-wideband frequency bands by the Federal Communication Commission in US, that is 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz band, and by European communication, that is 6 and 8.5 gigahertz band, extensive research has started on design and prototyping of antennas for operation of such frequencies basically. So the advantage I explained, that higher achievable data rate and increased immunity to interference due to low spectral power density. This it is almost minus 41 dBm per megahertz. So body-centric communication, particularly appealing, that is novel ultra-wideband wearable tactile antennas during the last decades. So data rate of 1 Gbps within 10-meter radius almost possible, that is significantly higher compared to your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So narrowband signals, actually the problem here is that the narrowband signals that exist in the ultra-wideband range, such as IEEE 802.11a transmitters, they may exhibit a high PSD levels compared to the power spectral density of ultra-wideband. So as a result, what happens? One could expect a degradation of the performance of ultra-wideband system. So these are, as I was discussing about the frequency band allocation, also in the tabular form it's mentioned for implant to implant, then implant to body surface, CM, these are the channel models, various channel models from CM1 to CM4 defined for that. So for various types, that means of implant to external, then body surface to body surface, again based on either line of sight scenario or there is some clutter in the environment, that brings the non-line of sight scenario. So body surface to external and body surface to external, both line of sight and non-line of sight scenario, and corresponding frequency bands and corresponding channels. So within this allocated frequency band, the 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz ultra-wideband has a higher significance. So this is the, as we know that it provides 7.5 gigahertz of bandwidth. So this can enable data transfer at rates of several Mbps. And the most important part is that it requires very low transmit power and low complexity transmitter and receiver structure. In band, in order for a sensor to work with the useful lifetime with a single power source, because power consumption should be low. So these are the advantages, but the only issue with UWB are its range, which 4 to 5 meters in free space, which is further limited in human body, and also as I told you, the interference from existing wireless networks using the band within the UWB spectrum. So hence we need techniques to compensate, to overcome these issues. Now coming to the IR impulse radio, actually the ultra wideband signals can be generated based on different principles, where UWB based on impulses can be viewed as a traditional approach. Nevertheless, you can say these UWB signals can be generated in a number of different ways, maybe frequency hopping, chip signaling, or by allowing conventional modulation schemes to work at a very high coded rate. So coming to this impulse radio UWB, this impulse radio UWB transmits information by means of very short pulses with a very low duty cycle, and these pulses directly modulate the baseband signal in terms of either pulse position modulation, or if in terms of, if you say polarity, then biphase modulation BPM, or amplitude, then pulse amplitude modulation. So by varying the pulse characteristic, that is the shape of the pulse and maybe duration of the pulse, the characteristic of the frequency spectrum can be controlled. Generally, this pulse shape determines the spectrum shape or the envelope, or that is how the energy occupies the frequency domain. So typically pulse shapes are squared or Gaussian pulse shapes. So the pulse duration in time domain determines the bandwidth in the frequency domain. So a narrower pulse in the time occupies a larger bandwidth for a short period of time. Usually this IR-UWB signal spreads into several gigahertz due to pulse durations in time duration that is actually in order of nanoseconds. So this IR-UWB signals can be generated. Yes, this IR-UWB signals can be generated in baseband, either carrierless without a sinusoidal carrier, or alternatively by mixing a high frequency sinusoidal carrier with an envelope, that is the second diagram, that is the carrier based. So this allows the energy in the DC to upshift into the targeted band. Note that you should note that here a shift in the operating frequency can be obtained by pulse shaping. So in the carrierless impulse radio UWB, it drives its antenna directly into the baseband signal. So at the transceiver, a local oscillator and mixers for the RF up or down conversion can be eliminated. So the pulse duration in the time domain, actually it is it is usually, we can define it by the delay of the digital gates with a sub nanoseconds duration followed by a pulse shaping filter. So this is the carrier. You can transmit the pulse basically directly to the antenna. So that results in the pulses being filtered due to the properties of the antenna. So this filtering can be modeled as a derivative operation. I can see here the Gaussian pulse and the first Gaussian derivative, and the C is the second Gaussian derivative. So this carrierless impulse radio UWB, it frequently works with the family of Gaussian pulse. So and generally higher order derivatives are preferred. Why? Because these higher order derivatives allow moving the baseband signal from DC to the target UWB band without additional up conversion, that is RF mixing stage. So again, multiple access schemes can be done. It can be done by time hopping codes, that is possible. So in the second one, in the carrier based impulse radio UWB, the signal can be generated by mixing a high frequency sinusoid carrier with an envelope, allowing the energy in DC to upshift into the targeted UWB band. Again, the pulse shapes includes here rectangular, maybe raised cosine and Gaussian also. So information can be transmitted using amplitude, pulse position, phase or frequency modulation. You can choose anything. Again, the multi-user separation here can be done by time hopping. Either you can use time hopping codes or you can use direct sequence spread spectrum. So the transmitter can be implemented either by up converting the baseband pulses to a center frequency. That is, if you are using mixing the envelope by the local oscillator or directly switching the LO on and off through gating, that is possible. So other UWB schemes like direct sequence UWB, this is an IR UWB extension basically we call. So this DS direct sequence UWB, it generates an ultra wide bandwidth signal by first coding the binary data sequence with a pseudo random binary valued spreading sequence, and then amplitude modulating a train of short pulses. So the bandwidth of the transmitted signal is then determined by the rate of the spreading sequence. Generally, it is typically higher, much higher than the data symbol rate. So in the traditional DS-UWB, DS spread spectrum, let's say, pulses are of Nyquist type or rectangular in time with the typical typically. So in DS-UWB, the pulse width is very small. That is, if you compare with a cheap interval, the pulse width here is very small. So in traditional DS spread spectrum, the baseband signal amplitude or phase modulates the carrier frequency, you know that, to bring the resulting signal at RF. So this upshifting operation can be avoided if you are using DS direct sequence ultra wideband, unless it is specifically requested. So a shift in the operating frequency can be obtained potentially by pulse shaping. So I'll show you the diagrams pulse shaping later, coming to that. So that is, then again another scheme, that is the multiband UWB, as you see, and it's another extension. The multiband scheme, it is slightly moved. So this is the diagram for the band planning for the MB multiband wide OFDM system. So just shifted by mistake. So this is the multiband UWB. In multiband UWB approach, it divides the ultra wideband spectrum into, you can see the spectrum, it has divided into multiple frequency subbands. And why? Because the spectrum can be efficiently used by eliminating the disadvantage associated with the large front end processing bandwidth. So this approach actually leverages the FCC UWB definition that a signal is considered UWB if its bandwidth exceeds 500 megahertz. So MBUWB splits the total UWB spectrum, that is 7.5 gigahertz under the FCC, into smaller frequency bands, at least 500 megahertz. So data transmission for given user occurs on different subbands in different periods of time. So different types of modulation can be adopted for data modulation with each subband. So the most popular approach is the OFDM concept and is known as the multi-band OFDM, we can say. So this, as you see the picture now coming into the diagram here, this multi-band OFDM here, it has divided the whole available UWB spectrum, that is from 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz, into subbands of around 528 megahertz each, 14 subbands basically. 14 subbands into 5 different groups. Band groups, you can see 1 to 4 contain 3 subbands, while band 5 has 2 subbands. You can see that. And each subband a conventional OFDM modulated signal with 128 subcarriers spaced at 4.125 megahertz apart, and basically QPSK modulation scheme is used. So this is the description. Is particularly I have taken from YMedia frequency plan. So there is additional overlapping also in the band group 6. There is additional overlapping, you can see. So each device will only use one subband group and a time frequency code. So in any time slot, an OFDM symbol is transmitted in one of the subbands. So the system hops according to a given time frequency code to another subband within the group to transmit the next symbols. So this is the MBOFDM scheme. Now, coming to the various research issues in the body area network. Just give me a minute, 1 minute, please. So the various first one is the sensor design, because the implanted and on-body sensors, we have to consider the various issues in the sensor design. Next one is the band channel model. So the impulse response of a this one channel model, CM3 channel model, that is used is given here, and this is the impulse response. So what type of channel model you have to use, that is a question mark. So according to the requirement, according to the propagation environment, you have to decide that. Then you can see, suppose in case of a transmitter receiver position, you can see here the the impulse response for different path, how it is varying with respect to time. The receiver position on body positions, it is, if it is the receiver position is changed, that is from 0 degree, then 90 degree, then 180, then 270, how the impulse response of the channel, body area network channel, is changing, you can observe from the impulse response. So that is also an issue. Then development of suitable modulation formats. So this suitable modulation, that means the modulation techniques should be energy efficient, reliable, interference immune, and secure. So for that, development of suitable modulation formats is necessary. Another important point is that the network security. So network security is a major issue, because the body area network, when it will be used to carry medical signals, so the network security will be a major issue. For that, you need encryption mechanisms and algorithms, not only to be it should be very fast and the algorithms should be used for compliant with the real-time processing of data, and along with that, it should be highly secure. So coming to the band receiver design, the next one. So the band receiver, the transceiver, as we just saw, the transceiver is required because the transceiver should satisfy the power limit. That is very important, power limit suggested by various governing authorities. It should be reliable and also provide robust performance in adverse channel conditions. So energy efficient, it should be energy efficient also. So these are the challenges. Another challenge is that the antenna design. So antenna has to be designed, it should be for the particular ultra wideband based band antenna design is a challenge, because it has a very large bandwidth and it has to be work well for the whole spectrum also. So now coming to the research work we have carried, that is about the considering the reliability aspect, how to improve the reliability. So considering the reliability aspect, the reliability ultra-wideband is affected by multiple shortcomings when used in the vicinity of human body, because the human body tissue limit the range of UWB in normal wireless communication. The power may be increased to compensate such losses, but in band it is not possible. So novel techniques to increase the range and reduce the outage also, that needs to be considered. So an issue with ultra wideband is that the 7.5 gigahertz spectrum multiple bands are, as you saw, they're already in use for existing wireless communication system. So this narrowband systems, Wi-Fi, WLAN, in this band, they all interfere with UWB, which causes serious signal degradation. So it will decrease the reliability of performance of band system. So the solution was offered that how to reduce the interference using a pulse shape that is immune to narrowband interference. So another issue with such pulses is that the design complexity, which should be lower so as to minimize the power consumption. So in our research work, we suggested basically a modified Hermite pulse that is quite immune to the narrowband interference. And the proposed pulse is also immune to fading and does not lose shape even after traveling through the channel. Then the performance of these pulses have been compared with the existing UWB pulses like the Gaussian and Rayleigh pulses. So studying the bit error rate, the proposed technique performance was verified and various validation have been carried out in that line. So in the proposed NBI mitigation technique, the concept follows that the pulses have actually inherent notches in the frequency domain, which makes them immune to interference. So only change is to we have to shift the position of notches so that it exactly matches with the center frequency of the interference. So in order to simulate a practical scenario, we considered or developed a modified Hermite pulse MHP for narrowband interference mitigation in the particularly this 4.94 gigahertz and 4.9 gigahertz band in IEEE 802.11y interference, and we perform a simulation based study to test the performance of the proposed pulses compared to the Gaussian pulses. So these pulse shaping and interference resistant pulses, they were implemented on the transmitter side at our end. So, and the pulse shapes were designed to have spectral nulls exactly at the center frequency of the interference, due to which they will not be affected by the NBI. So you can see the developed pulse shapes. So these are the modulated modified Hermite pulse and the higher order pulses also, and corresponding spectral plots. So and you can see here how the presence of and the second diagram in the right hand side, the top diagram, the modified Hermite pulse of order 1 and spectral plot with the notch exactly at 4.9 gigahertz. And you can see how the presence of NBI, if you can be mitigated using this modified Hermite pulse shape. So it is the notch, by locating the notch at the center frequency, we can eliminate that. Similarly, using hybrid Hermite pulses, this is a first order Hermite pulse. Then the second equation is the hybrid Hermite pulse, which was constructed by delaying and modulating the Hermite pulse. And when there are multiple, why it was designed? Because when there is a presence of multiple narrowband interference in ultra wideband spectrum, then you need to design this such type of mitigation techniques, and in this process a hybrid Hermite pulse was developed. So this hybrid Hermite pulse, you can see it has several notches as for the requirement. We could able to develop design the several notches as for the requirement. So the experimentation procedure carried out, simulation has been done in a both the channel model 3 and channel model 4, which uses the 3.1 to 10.6 gigahertz band. So once the channel conditions were verified, random data was generated and BPSK modulated signal was generated using both Gaussian and MHP pulses. Then the data was filtered through band channels and additive white Gaussian noise was added to it, taking into account the various interference. Then the narrowband interference was added to the signal. Then at the signal reception, it was done a 16-finger rake receiver with ML detection technique. Then the received data was compared with the transmitted data and the bit error rate was recorded. So the different interferences added to the signal labels, different signal labels, that is increasing it from 10 to 40 dB, the interfering signals. So this is the model, the proposed model developed, block diagram of the representation of the proposed model developed, simulation model developed, and here the performance analysis is shown how the presence of hybrid Hermite pulse in presence of two interferers, how the bit error rate performance is getting better, and in case of a 3 interferer also it is able to mitigate the interference, because the performance bit error rate performance of the system what we obtained, it is better, and we have observed up to hybrid Hermite pulse of 8 to 16 derivative, 4 starting from 4, then 8, then 16, and it's compared with the corresponding Gaussian pulses. So the performance comparison for a 2 interference scenario, you can see the using also at the receiver end, the rake receiver used, the number of fingers, rake fingers were varied from 4 to 16, and corresponding bit error rates, the SINR, as it was varied from this one 0 to 0, 5 and 10 dB. So accordingly, the bit error rate performance is noted in the corresponding table. And what we observed that as we go on increasing the number of rake fingers, the performance get better in terms of the bit error rate. All in both the cases, in case of 2 interferers and also in case of 3 interferers. So similarly, transmitting, what we also did one thing, we transmitted the ECG signal through the UWB W band system, developed system ECG signal. The first diagram in the ECG signal that shows the ECG received signal using Gaussian pulse with a 4-finger rake receiver with EB to a naught that is varying from 0 to 30 dB. So the first figure, sub-figure, is the transmitted signal. The other sub-figures are the received ones, varying the signal SIN. So similarly, with the 4-finger rake, it is shown, and also increasing it to 8-finger rake, it is shown. So here also we transmitted the image. We tested for image transmission, MRI image transmission. So MRI also image transmission, it was quite successful in the sense that we tried with a 4-finger rake. Also we had increased to 8 and 16 figure and got more better results, but the performance was quite satisfiable. Now, so the various observations are like this. As we go on increasing the number of rake fingers, the performance of both the techniques improved drastically. And as we go on increasing, the performance increases, but the complexity also is increasing with the increase in the number of rake fingers. So a trade-off has to be done between the performance and the complexity. So what we commented there, a 4 rake receiver would be an ideal choice in that case. And also we observed that the MHP is far superior to the modified Hermite pulse, is far superior in performance. compared to the Gaussian pulse in presence of interference carrying ECG when we are transmitting ECG signals. Now, the second research work we did, we carried out a measurement campaign in the laboratory environment. So, the purpose was to develop empirical body area network channel model. So, in the body area network, body to surface channel, body surface to external channels also come into picture. So, this body surface to body surface channel, it provides a scenario where the communication is only in the vicinity of the human body, and the transmitter and receiver are both located in the human body surface. In case of body surface to external scenario, the communication is between the sensor located on the body and an external device such as a smartphone or PDA. So we need simple empirical pathless models in these 3 to 6 gigahertz based body area networks. So considering that, we carried out certain measurement campaign in the lab. So this was the measurement setup in the lab. 1 minute. Yes. So here the measurement setup, the antenna design was a crucial issue for us. And the antenna used for this channel modeling setup, we used a small microstrip antenna of typical dimension 30 mm to 32 mm we have taken, and the student only designed the UWB antenna which worked in that range, UWB range, and provided a gain almost of 1.913 dBi to 4.248 dBi for the entire range of frequency. So that antenna, so apart from its smaller dimension, the low cost, low complexity, omnidirectional pattern and high bandwidth we required. So such type of antenna design was done, and accordingly the measurement setup in the measurement setup in the laboratory environment using a vector signal generator capable of generating up to 6 gigahertz and a spectrum analyzer used which up to 7 gigahertz measurement range. So in that the antennas were placed on the subject's body, and the transmitter receiver separation was varied, and the path loss, the received signal strength were recorded for path loss models. So the gain of the transmitting and receiving antenna and the losses due to cables were pre-calculated to derive the receipt power so as to calculate the path loss easily. So the empirical, this is the path loss measurement samples along with their average and fitted plots for body surface communication channel. So, and based on that, the fitted path loss with respect to distance, varying the distance for all frequency bands from 3.49 starting from basically three frequency, 3.49, 3.99 we have varied, then 4.49, all frequency from here to 5.4912. So both for direct point line of sight and putting some clutters in the environment and going changing the environmental clutters. We have varied, that is we have made non-line of sight and also measured. Similarly, this is a fitted path loss comparison for the line of sight and non-line of sight within the 3 to 6 gigahertz band for body surface to external communication. So this empirical path loss models gave us successful results when we compared with the existing models, and this was the results were published in various journals and conference. I'll give you the reference of that also. So finally, to conclude that body area network is a promising technology which will provide healthcare facility to a large population with limited healthcare professional and health service. So it will be a boon for, definitely going to be a boon for, particularly for elderly people in the age group, higher age group, who are more prone to fall, seizures like that. So also another main advantage will be tracking of patients in case of emergency medical service, maybe rust. So, what I find that there are many open challenges in the design and implementation of WBAN. I discussed some of the challenges. What the challenge means: the design of sensors, the transmitter and receivers for BAN. These are all this one more research challenges are there, and UWB will be suitable candidate for high data rate BAN system because of the advantage we discussed. But at the same time, the UWB devices should be developed to be immune to interference, and they must provide reliable communications. So these are some of the publications. This is basically the publications of the student. It's the student work. So the publications, some of the publications of the student. So I thank you all for listening to this. Now let me see the chat box.
Okay, thank you, madam, for your presentation and give a topic lecture on the reliable communication in ultra wideband body area network. So now
Yes,
I am requesting.
Suman, 1 minute.
Please.
I just want to I want to add one thing. So in India, what is the status right now? Let me tell you. In 2018, so 19, it came that in end of around 2018, the Wellness Planning and Coordination Wing (WPC) approved the use of 3 areas of short range devices, that is WLAN 5 GHz and wireless charging in India, and use of low power and very low power short range radio frequency devices, use of wireless access system using radio local networks in 5 GHz band, and use of very low power ultra wideband devices. So so this type of UWB based wireless band service is no longer a dream. So it is the most upcoming for advanced medical care. Thank you, Suman.
Ma'am,
Yes.
is there any way to theoretically relate the rake fingers, number of rake fingers in the SINR? Because we observed that as the rake fingers they increase and the SINR also improved, right? So can
Yes,
we relate them theoretically somehow?
Definitely. It's basically the rake combining. So the same way we do the maximal ratio combining, we can develop that mathematical formulation also. Mathematical formulation we have developed also and related to this increase in the rake fingers. But as the time was not there, and it will, I just keep the mathematical formulations. We can relate it to the number bit error rate directly.
And ma'am, is there any reason? Is there any reason that only 2 and 3 interferers were considered in the comparison, because they show more or less the same performance in terms of bit error rate?
No, it is. We are just. It's an experimental stage. So it's a laboratory environment. It's not a practical scenario. So basically, we can go on adding the number of interferers and check also. We can do that because if the number of devices in that, or number of devices operating in different frequencies in that band increases, that means the number of interferers will go on increasing. Okay, so we can design the pulse. We can pulse shaping. Through pulse shaping, basically we are designing the notches at those interferers. Okay, so it is possible very well to add more number of, but for a testing purpose we have taken two. We started with 2 interferers, then increased to 3 interferers, like that. It's not a limitation in that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, madam.